The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you. Hello, and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist, Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
the erotic idea of a chainsaw, that is Eric Velazquez. My pronouns are also he, him.
So, yeah, this is kind of a little special episode. Real quick, this is obviously not about a Frankenstein movie. We're going to be talking about the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie because, everybody's talking about it.
We've got our opinions.
But also, so you may have noticed that we've been having a little bit more bonus episodes in the feed lately. And that's partially because we just have a lot of stuff we want to talk about and we're excited and it's hard to wait a week between things. But it's also because we're kind of talking about maybe starting a Patreon soon. So we're kind of figuring out what that's going to look like. And something like this is probably what one of the tiers will look like, which is that we may just kind of have casual chats about non-Frankenstein things for, 20, 30 minutes. And that'll be a bonus episode that will show up in the Patreon feed.
Yeah, a little bit of a treat for everybody, right?
Yeah, so we thought to kind of test drive that out and show you kind of a preview of what, what that might look like. We thought we'd talk about this movie since, everybody's talking about it.
So before we get started, obviously, spoilers.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we're gonna spoil this like crazy.
I mean, don't get me wrong. All of our presentations and shows are spoilers to a degree, but they're for movies that none of them have been less than 30 years old, which hurts my soul a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one's like a week or two old. It's don't listen unless you have seen it or don't mind spoilers.
All right, so let's kick this party off.
Yeah, so what did you think?
All right, so I know we're not going beat by beat, but let's go ahead and start off early in the movie. We're introduced to Melody and her sister, obviously the main protagonist, where they just immediately cut into random guy at a gas station. Just being assholes to him. So they're not likable right off the bat. So it's oh, you're murder fodder.
Yeah.
It telegraphed that right off the bat. And he's kind of a good old boy redneck type, which is is he a good guy or is he one of the Sawyers?
Yeah.
Because you got to watch that with these kind of movies. It's is he going to be like Viggo Mortensen in what is it? Texas Chainsaw, is it The Next Generation? I think it is.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So it's is he really a bad guy?
Yeah.
And we eventually kind of skip from there. And then we get this really weird part where they've bought this whole town, it seems like, or not the whole town, but at least a block of this old historic neighborhood of Harlow.
Yeah, it's an old-timey town square, and they have basically bought the whole downtown area.
Yeah, and they're going to gentrify it.
Yeah, and they're they're really, it's they're Gen Z, they're early 20s. So I don't know if, I don't know if
how
they're
did
supposed
they get
to
this money?
Yeah, I don't know if they're influencers or something. They've got a bunch of Instagram money, or I don't know,
right.
That. It seems to me seeing a lot of other people respond to this movie. There's one camp that's this story is dumb, and one camp that's slasher movies aren't supposed to have stories. Who cares?
Right.
And I kind of feel I fall into both camps on that, which is that if you look at the original Halloween, it doesn't really have a story. It's just there are babysitters. There's a guy who wants to kill babysitters, and he kills some babysitters. That's it.
Right.
But
this movie is like pushing its story on you like really, really hard.
Right.
And then the story doesn't really make any sense.
Like,
and
it has a message. There's a message in here. What that message is, I can't tell you.
Yeah.
But it lets you know there's a message.
Yeah, like there's all this stuff where it's like, you have like the young people who are sort of interlopers, so you kind of get this sort of thing where it's like,
Yeah, you don't belong here.
Yeah, you're like gentrifying our town, like you don't belong here basically.
Yeah.
So they're kind of played as villains, but then there's stuff where like, they see a Confederate flag and they want to take it down, and I've heard people who are like, people trying to take a Confederate flag down, this movie's woke, and it's like, but they're also like, we were trying to kill these people. So yeah, I don't know if the movie wants you to like these people or not.
Right. But yeah, so let's
like,
get back into it. So Dante is one of the three main characters in this movie. He's a black guy. He's the one who basically notices the Confederate flag, and he's like, "Oh no, that's got to go." I agree with him on that one. That one's got to go.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So then he busts into this house, takes it down, but we learn that it's actually owned, or in theory owned, by an older lady. What was her name?
Yeah,
Does she have a name?
Yeah, I don't think they named her. Like, and
no, she's Virginia. Virginia, that's her name.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
so,
yes, she owns this like orphanage, but like it's like this old house that's all run down, and all the orphans have moved on except for one who is this large sort of man-child that
we
like
know.
Yeah, this is Leatherface, even though like right now he's just like a guy. He does not have his Leatherface mask or anything.
Right, but apparently the bank has foreclosed on like, maybe that's why it's so cheap. It's just the whole block is a foreclosure, which damn. But yeah, so and then of course these kids have no mercy, so they're like, "Hey, old lady, I don't know where you got to go, but you can't be here."
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, you're really murder fodder. Something bad's going to happen to everyone in this room. Yeah.
And it ends up that this whole thing kind of it's unclear if they actually do own the house or not. Like they end up calling the police. The police force the lady or Virginia and Leatherface to leave. They like even put them in like a wagon to like take them away.
But that's when the stress kicks in, and the old lady basically has a heart attack, and they're like, "Oh crap, we got to take her to the hospital."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then like as it goes on, there's like a lot of debate, like, did they actually own this? They can't find the deed. And so it's weird though, because like the police seem to be like, they know what's up, and they escorted him out. So I don't know if they actually owned the building or not. And like the dude that they were jerks to at the gas station, it turns out he's
he's their handyman.
Yeah, he's their contractor, but he kind of gets pissed about this and is like, I'm not helping you anymore until you show me the deed.
Right.
And not only that, I'm stealing your car keys. Like, you can't even leave town. Like, you are stuck here until you prove to me that you didn't, come up and like, fuck up this lady's world for no reason.
Right. Yeah, it's almost like they're saying that, like, gentrification is also bad for like rednecks and hillbillies. And it's like, I get that to a point, but also they own most of their property, and I mean, most of the time that's going to actually increase their wealth. Yeah,
this isn't gentrification in the way that you have like a poor neighborhood where everyone's in rentals, and then companies start buying up property and raising their rents and running them out. Like, that's not what happened here.
No.
But then like we end up like a whole bus of investors shows up to
like, okay, so somehow we know Dante and what is it, Lila, I think, or no, Dante and Melody, like, they're apparently like cooks, or they're almost like professional chefs to a degree.
Yeah.
And maybe that's how they also got the money. Who knows? It's very ambiguous in that regard, honestly. Like, we can't tell if they're influencers, chefs, if they're chefs that do influencing, like internet Gordon Ramsay. Like, it's weird. It's like, it is very much like someone who is of the boomer generation, like the OK Boomer thing, wrote something about Generation or Gen Z and X, or Gen Z and millennials.
Yeah,
it's like
definitely
a weird mishmash of that. So, yeah, as things are wont to do, the old lady, as she's being taken away, of course, passes on because her heart's not in good condition. Her quote unquote son, Leatherface, is very angry because his adoptive mother has just died, and he goes about killing everyone in the car.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and this is when like we finally do get some like cool stuff. So like Leatherface kills this cop that's in the back with him. He breaks the guy's arm, then like uses the protruding arm bones to like stab him to death.
Right. So if you're in this for the kills, if that's all you're here for, you're good to go.
Oh yeah.
Just shut your brain off. Enjoy the gore, because you're there.
Yeah, because this Leatherface is definitely like the most brutal since the first movie, and maybe even more brutal than the first one. Like he is just like, because Leatherface is usually kind of portrayed as like sort of a child who doesn't really understand what he's doing to some degree, but this guy is like, he wants to hurt people, like, and does the whole movie.
I feel like the first Leatherface was obviously a big kid who was told to do a cannibalism by his family.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas this one is one that's like, no, I want to hurt people now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, another like complaint with this is that like one thing that I really like about all of the Texas Chainsaw movies is like Leatherface is sort of the centerpiece, but the family is such a big part of it. Like the rest of the family is weird, and the way that they work together and like, you know, have like secret relationships and, you know, kind of infiltrate the area with like more normie type family members and stuff. But
there's
this
no
is
family.
like, yeah, there's no family at all. Like we have this woman who is, you know, his adopted mother from the orphanage, but like she's not a Sawyer. She's just a normal old lady. Right. So yeah, that felt like a missed opportunity.
Right, especially with the contractor. Like I was saying, it's like, oh, he could be one of the hidden Sawyers, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But of course he's not.
Yeah. So yeah, so he like kills the Leatherface, kills the cops, drags his you know, adopted mother's corpse out of the van, and, you know, removes her face.
Yep.
And, you know, makes his mask.
Oh, by the way, there's a character named Ruth. She's completely forgettable because we've forgotten about her. And she's, I guess, Dante's girlfriend, but she's literally just here to see him put on his mother's face and die. And then she gets killed. Yeah,
she decides to ride along because she feels bad or something. But then she just gets killed along with the other two cops. And then, you know, Leatherface starts making his way back to town. And then we get like, we have all these, the investors who've kind of been like exploring the town. And which is really weird because they act like I guess they technically do own part of the town, but holy shit, are they entitled? Oh yeah. They're awful. Like you're not supposed to like these people. And you know, as to make things perfectly clear, Leatherface ends up like climbing onto this like tour bus where there's just like a bunch of people partying on a bus. Oh,
this is another thing. Oh my gosh, this pisses me off so bad. But because like literally, like he gets on the tour bus at this. Well, we skipped over a few things. We'll talk about Lila here in a moment. She's Melody's sister. But anyway, so yeah, he gets on this bus, and instead of doing the rational thing that, you know, a normal human being, no matter what generation you're part of, and just running the hell away from this guy, they pull up their fucking cell phones and they're like, dude, you're going to get canceled. Bullshit. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Who the hell does that?
Yeah, that line is, I mean, like, they're clearly just mocking Gen Z, but like, yeah, that line was just hard to like stomach.
Right? You're going to get canceled. Who does that? Tell me this.
Yeah. And so then, he murders everybody. He murders everyone on the bus as we want really him to do.
It's honestly really cool though.
Like the kill scene is great, and like there's a really like a funny little Easter egg. So like we see part of the kill happening through somebody's phone, like their camera. So you see like they're like live streaming, and you're seeing like the little likes and the comments scrolling And you see as like Leatherface comes into frame, a name like in the chat pops up, and it's the director, and he says, "Who hired this clown?" And then the person holding the phone gets murdered.
I do love that he literally picks the guy up on the chainsaw and like goes through the ceiling of the bus.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I'm loving it. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about Lila. During this whole period, Lila's off with the contractor, and they're having a very emotional, like, connection scene where the scene or the movie wonderfully handles the fact that Lila was the survivor of a mass shooting. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is my feeling. Maybe don't drop that in the movie.
Yeah.
Who wants to deal with that?
Yeah, and if that was sort of the thing, and but you put her in the middle of like an unlikable group of people that were supposed to be like excited about them getting chopped up, and now we're supposed to feel bad for her or feel some connection for her, and like this guy sort of kind of tries to teach her how to use a gun, and she's obviously like kind of reticent to do so since she's had traumatic experiences with guns.
Right.
There is a way to make a movie that has a survivor of a school shooting.
I don't know if it's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The one, and it's definitely not this Texas Chainsaw Massacre. No. And so like at this point we're down to where like Leatherface Leatherface ends up kind of stalking Dante through the house. As he's trying to find the deed. And he ends up killing Dante.
But Dante does find the fact that the old lady did have the deed, and so they basically fucked up.
Yeah, so they did not own this house, and the police, worked for them and pushed these poor people out of their homes. Mm-hmm. So if you didn't think these people had what's coming to them, like now, there's nothing left to really feel sorry for them about. Yeah. And so we're down to basically like you got the final girls, right? And the sisters.
Like help me out here, because this is my memory, and my memory can be a little funny this way. So after Dante is murdered, doesn't like Melody come in on that, and like she's running up the stairs, but she gets to the top and sees Leatherface pretty much chopping Dante up.
Yeah, I think so.
And doesn't he throw an axe at her and knocks her down the stairs?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. She gets up and walks it off.
Yeah.
She's here through the rest of the movie. Like, if an axe hits me in the chest, sends me flying down the stairs, I'm pretty sure I'm out. Like, he hit her with force. Like, you hear, boom. Like, it was not a gentle tapping with this axe.
No.
Like, she should have almost been, like, bifurcated or bisected by this thing.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's another... okay. But yeah, so that's happening.
And then we get what I think is probably the biggest sort of letdown of this movie.
Yeah.
If you can forgive kind of this wonky story, I think the thing that is the most egregious is we end up Sally, the survivor from the first movie. They kind of try to do a Laurie Strode with her.
Yeah, she's a Texas Ranger now, right?
Yeah, so she's like trained. She's a Texas Ranger, but in the like alongside of her normal Texas Ranger duties, she's been trying to find Leatherface for decades. Right. But it's hard to find a masked man when he's not in the mask. So she's just kind of been like, this is her sort of white whale kind of deal. Yeah. But she gets a call from the police that are like, we hear something's going on in this town. There's a guy. We think it's it. Like, you need to get to Harlow. Right. So she's like, all right, racks a shotgun. Let's go. Yeah.
By the way, how does she know he's called Leatherface? Because she's only ever known him as Bubba. Yeah. I mean, maybe the media called him Leatherface, but I mean, really?
Yeah, she like calls him Leatherface to his
face.
It's but so then she gets to town. She actually manages to like find him. Like, he's like upstairs in the house. She comes up upon, like, comes upon him in his room. He's standing there with a chainsaw. She's standing there with a shotgun. And then she's just like, you know who I am? And he's just mute because he's Leatherface. He doesn't talk. And she's like, don't you recognize this picture of me and my friends from the 1970s?
Nope.
Say my name. And he's just like, no, I'm a...
Right. He's mute, I think, right? Like,
yeah, the only you sometimes get some weird grunts and stuff from him, but he's never spoken in any of these movies.
Like, it's like she doesn't even know she met him before. Like, he doesn't talk. You've never heard anyone call him Leatherface unless it's been the media. But, who would have known unless, I don't know. Anyway, and then, of course, she trains the shotgun on him, but she never fires. She's been waiting for this for 40-something years, or 50 years almost.
Yeah. And
so, yeah.
Yeah, so he, like, just walks out, and then she starts chasing him, and then, decides to try to shoot him. Like, they're in the street, and she, like, fires a shotgun at him, and he somehow, like, deflects
it with the
full,
chainsaw?
like, yeah. Like, if it was a rifle shell, like, maybe he could have deflected a bullet, but you can't deflect shot. But he does. And so their face-off is so anticlimactic. Like, he ends up, like, he just kills her in the street, throws her into a pile of trash, like, literal pile of trash.
That's a very apt metaphor for what they do to Sally Hardesty in this movie.
Yeah. And, like, he guts her, like, but then she lives for way too long, just, like, sharing bits of, just, like, talking folksy wisdom to the girls, like, here, take my gun, like, you gotta end this, or he'll keep coming after you.
Oh, I love the fact, she tells him, don't run. Whatever you do, don't run, because he'll always, be in your mind or some garbage like that. It's like, that's exactly how you survived.
Yeah. Like, she lived this whole life because she ran. Right.
Yeah, you lived several, like, basically 50 years past your friends and family's expiration date because you ran.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the stupidest thing you could say in this moment. You're like, hey, and by the way, she's saying this to a girl who survived a mass shooting.
And she's saying it as she's bleeding out because she didn't run.
Jeez. Oh, Pete.
Yeah.
But yeah, so everything progresses. We get to the final confrontation. Gosh, I honestly could say I don't really remember what happened before they somehow KO'd Leatherface and he fell into a puddle.
Yeah, it's kind of back and forth of him chasing him with a chainsaw, them shooting him. I think he deflects another shotgun blast, actually. Yeah. But yeah, they finally do, like, it seems that they have defeated him and they decide they're ready to leave.
Right. But of course they don't double tap because you don't do that in horror movies.
Yeah. So they get into their, like, fancy, rich kid car
that has actual autopilot. It knows how to drive itself.
Which is, like, is just a dumb thing for this, like, final set piece. So, like, They get the car going. They start to. It's just getting ready to roll away. They're kind of like, "Oh, we made it. Like, I love you. We're okay. I'm sorry we fought earlier because we're sisters. Well, blah blah blah." And
bam! Leatherface just smashes his hand through this window, pulls Melody out by her hair, and, like, in the middle of the street, takes the chainsaw and decapitates her as her sister is stuck in the car, screaming.
And the car's driving away. She's looking out the sunroof, watching her sister get decapitated.
I'm like, that's a cool fucking way to end the movie, though.
Yeah.
But damn, why did they have to waste that on this movie?
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're mixed messages, is what we're saying. Like, it's like it's worth seeing, but it's not worth paying attention to.
Right, yeah, exactly. And I feel like, we're getting all these legacy slashers right now, between Halloween kind of kicking it off and then Candyman and then Scream. All of those are much better than this.
They're good.
They're good because they manage to toe the line between, like, having a story that is compelling, that ties back to the old stuff without being too reliant on the old stuff, and also just being full of awesome kills, so you can check out of the story if you don't care, or if you want to pay attention to the story, there is something for you.
Right.
And then there's this where like it pushes the story down your throat, and then it's not a compelling story.
No. It's like it's shaming you. If you're a young person, it's shaming you for being young and trying to validate like older people. Like, your Texas Chainsaw Massacre was better. It's like, well, yes, it was, because you obviously gave a shit. Or aside from the kills.
Yeah.
You know?
And, you know, mild Scream spoilers, but I feel like also just watching the fan response to this movie in sort of both directions has really validated the ending of Scream.
Yeah.
Without telling too much of it, like the fan response between like people who are like, this is the worst movie ever made, and if you like it, you're a monster. And then people who are like, if you hate this movie, it's because you're woke and you don't understand what horror is. Yeah. Like that just sort of the toxicity there, and the like complete inability for people to be like, you know, I didn't really like this movie, but it had some things that were okay, and if you like it, that's cool. I'm glad you enjoyed something there. Like really just speaks to what the entire plot of the new Scream was. So I wouldn't say I recommend this movie. If you've watched all the rest of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, you might as well watch this one too. But if you haven't seen any of them, go watch one, and you know, if you like weird stuff, watch 2, because it's so weird and fun.
Well, two's kind of like, it's a horror comedy. It's not, like the first one was a horror movie. The second one was a horror comedy. The rest just got more comedy.
Yeah. And I even like when there were all the Anchor Bay remakes, when there was a remake of Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, I thought the Texas Chainsaw from that was pretty decent too.
Yeah.
So there are definitely fun Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. I would put this, you know, below the middle tier of this. Like it's, it has stuff that makes it fun, but yeah, I would. There are at least 3 or 4 that I would put above this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one that immediately comes to mind that like is the absolute worst is the Origin. Is that what it's called? Texas Chainsaw Massacre Origin? Anyway, it's the one where they do the fake out where you think Bubba is the chubby kid, but turns out to be the perfectly handsome, normal one.
Oh, yes.
That's the one I would say is worse than this.
Is that one just called Leatherface, or is that...
Is it called Leatherface? It is called Leatherface. You're right.
Yeah. Because I think there's Leatherface. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 is also called Leatherface, but then there's one that's just called Leatherface. That's more recent.
Leatherface, just Leatherface is the bad one.
Yeah. So. But yeah, you know, I mean, it's fine. Like that's, I wouldn't say it's like an atrocity, but I would not, you know, highly recommend it.
So as Anthony has said, we've chosen the third path. Watch it if you want to see some cool kills, I guess. A few cool kills. I don't think there's anything really like super original. Like the axe throw and the Melody surviving is kind of brutal and cool. So it's got that.
The arm bone stabbing I think might be my favorite, because it was so brutal, and it was like the first one, and it was just like, that's where this movie's going. Okay. Right.
See, if it had stuck there, I think it probably would have been better. But I guess they had to have murder fodder in their mind. But why couldn't we just have the town be full of regular residents, and maybe like a couple places bought up by these kids?
Yeah.
You know?
Or, you know, I mean, the first Texas Chainsaw is about a bunch of kids just showing up in a town where they don't really belong. But all of the, like, weird sort of, like, interloper, gentrify kind of thing, that was where it just felt like it had an agenda that was not really very clear.
No. Yeah. So, yeah. Obviously, if you do choose to go into this, turn your brain off. That's all it's worth.
Yeah.
All right, so this was one of our other bonuses. I hope you all enjoyed it. Do we have anything more to say about it?
I think that covers it. So, be on the lookout. We'll probably be talking more about Patreon ideas in the near future. We'll probably be talking about them on the show, but also, you can follow us on the socials. We'll be mentioning it there. So that's, at the Frankencast on Twitter and Instagram.
Yep, YouTube, all the good stuff.
Yeah. And of course, if you're curious, want to get some inside scoop, you can always ask us questions there, or email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com. We're always happy to talk to folks there. But yep, I think that covers it for this week, or for this little special episode.
All right, and since this is something special, it has to go out on a special note. Just remember, we'll be back.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velazquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.